All right, so here we got EpicNess with something that I'm actually very excited for. The Dawn of the Dragon movement tech showcase. And honestly, get ready to get your minds blown because this game has some crazy tech that I'm very excited for him to show you. And I hope you're excited to see it too. So take it away to him.
All right, thank you very dearly for introducing me first, Mikkel. Very much feeling the same energy that you described there as this game actually I had tried to look into it a few years prior to learn some of the movement tech, but it was very unintuitive at first. Hopefully not only will I be showcasing stuff that was known and has now just been discovered, but maybe help you understand how it works, and maybe you'll be able to tinker around with it yourself by the time we're done. There's a lot to cover actually, so I'm just going to try and do as much as I can, just jump right into it. So, the core of Dawn of the Dragon, with all of its movement, I wish it had been explained to me earlier, as it made just everything flow much more nicely in my brain, having that logic there. It has to do with combining two tools. So you have these new kind of defensive options added to your toolkit. Um, you have the shield and you have this roll. And they both come out rather quickly, so much so that you can interrupt certain moves with it, which that makes sense considering you need to be able to maneuver throughout combat or just block at any moment's notice. Uh, the other piece of the puzzle are these various attacks and such that kind of have you lunging at the enemy. Like, you have this high burst of speed, but typically, of course, the animation goes through, it tapers off, and your speed goes back to normal. But when you interrupt those animations, you get crap like this. And so you can already see immediately what the name of the game may be. Animation cancels and momentum conservation um, both play a huge role there. So that was what I'll be referring to as a roll fling. You interrupt the strong attack and add the roll, which has its own quirks compared to shield, and I'll be demonstrating how those are um, useful in certain circumstances. Roll is nice coming out of that because you have a bit of a boost in one direction, but your speed tapers off and you're not really that actionable after the fact. Shield is nicer because it leaves you completely actionable, but not all of your moves are able to do that. So we could kind of see why that distinction is important looking at the other or piece of tech in Dawn of the Dragon that was known before, a bit of a revelation lately, called the Super Bounce. So you can see with like sheepfold canceling it, you don't have to have your momentum sent in like one specific way and leaving you with no other way to interact with it. It's like either this roll is going to like take you to where you want to go, or it's not going to do anything. Um, so it is nice to then just be able to fall down in any style you wish from there. But the other thing that you can do is add your jump in as another movement vector to combine with that bounce up from the ground pound. And so through that, you can end up just gaining like so much more height. And, by combining these two core techniques, you can kind of just fling yourself across the map at any given point, provided you have the space. Now, there are some slight variations to that. I really like this little instance I found where you can do a like jump roll out of a shield cancel. Hold on. It's a little tricky on the timing because the speed oscillates very quickly on these moves. There you go. So you can kind of give like a directional curvature if there's like something you're just trying to land on immediately besides you. You don't plan to necessarily chain too many things into it. You can just kind of like arch yourself over towards there or whatever. And it also just like gains the height maybe a little bit faster. It's a little hard to actually like buffer or input the full like jump roll. Um, but when you get it, it's incredibly satisfying. Try for maybe one more. There you go. And even from there, like you get so much height that that can end up being actionable, so that's rather nice. I did mention that roll itself leaves you inactionable, which is still kind of true. Like you're still being flung uh, and just like keep going because there's like no air friction or whatever. On the ground, you tend to lose all of your speed and slow down. But there's a way to still kind of carry over some of your momentum. And one of those is this sort of thing I call either like an empty roll or a proxy roll. Normally, when you do like a forward roll or whatever, Spyro has this cooldown. But oddly enough, during this like crouch animation, you're able to input a jump. And if you are quick enough about it, you'll just skid along the ground and like keep going forward. So let's see if we can get a quick little instance of that. Yeah, so you can see like getting a little hop. With greater instances, you know, you can effectively like double your distance. Like I would not have gotten up here clearly. So with all that on the table, you know, that's just the two main instances and a few variations of such. You might be wondering how you actually control that as a as opposed to just like rubber banding around the level, bouncing into walls. You know, that's not too optimal. And well, there's a couple interesting ways that you can go about cutting your speed and redirecting yourself. One of which is just the simple fact of how speed conservation works. So if I roll here and pull back or whatever, um, the the momentum that you preserve tends to be faster than any of the speed caps on your general movements, like walking or whatever. Um, so normally, like if I do a roll here and I just hold neutral, I'll skid along the ground because some of that momentum is still present. But if you like hold back or whatever, you can see like Spyro just kind of suddenly stopped moving. And you can do that with a couple other moves that have their own base speed cap. Like you have Bite here, can kind of act as a nice little extender or finisher to help you land or catch a ledge that you're just a little far off from. Um, you also have things like the roll itself. You can also like ground pound and cancel that before you hit the ground to just like get sent straight down. All pretty good. There are other instances though where you might want to redirect your movement or have smaller movements, like if the circumstances demand it. So one of those is that you can redirect your momentum by hitting various slopes and surfaces. So you could see I got all of my forward momentum converted leftward there just by like hitting that slope and whatever. So you kind of have to like line those up, and the proxy roll ends up being your friend in a lot of that. But that's another way that you can sort of pivot or just generally get a lot of benefit. Now another niche or more niche thing you can do if you're just not needing so much of distance and everything, you know, you can always just like spam roll, which for whatever reason, Spyro's side roll in the air. Side note here. If I can get it. Why? There we go. That one ignores the cooldown for some reason, so that can end up traveling across distances pretty quickly. But what I find a lot more enticing is the bite cancel, which I already mentioned bite earlier. But whenever you shield cancel it with tight timing, it kind of is like a shorter version of the techniques that I showed earlier, but with a lot less startup and a lot more control, because you can just do these like that. You aren't really restricted on how many times you can bite in the air. So if you were like really good or Cass or something, you could chain a lot of those together. You can technically also like roll cancel it, but it doesn't really preserve the speed as well and loses out on a lot of the flexibility that you get from this. You also just like can change your angle, you know, with your second jump or whatever. So this ends up being really useful when you just do not have like the height to gain, because maybe you're in an enclosed space, or maybe it's more labyrinthian, I guess is the way to put it. Like you need to turn more and stuff. With all of that,
I hate to
there.
interrupt, but would you be able to load the stream up on the link in chat? Struggling a little bit here.
I'm sorry?
So I hate to interrupt, but could you load up the ping link in the tech chat to see if we can lower this bitrate a little bit better, because it's kind of on and off struggling here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're going to see if lowering
All
the
right.
min bitrate might help a bit, so if you can just load that up.
It's in tech chat.
I was trying to find a good spot to ask that, but I kind of had to just jump in.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to
No worries.
be quick so that, oh man, we're going to quite the bit right there. All right, 1 second. And oh, thanks. I don't even like have anything different going on or open with my PC, so I'm not sure why this is the case, but oh well. Not anything we can't work around. Hope it wasn't too terrible. I know we're already pressed for time.
This looks a lot better so far in the first couple seconds. I think we can let this go for a bit and see what happens.
Okay. Let me see, where was I? Okay, so I had left off, I had actually just finished off all the, like, regular tools of your kit that you can use, like, just right off the bat without too many questions being asked. Now, a lot of what's coming up is going to be completely new territory. This is the elemental movement techniques, which they prove to be very potent in Eternal Night, if you've ever seen any of my runs of that, but they end up being quite useful here as well. I'm going to start with something a little more mundane that was known about prior. Let me just kind of work my way over to a decent place to demonstrate. Oops. No, it's so rewarding to just do any of that. Alrighty. So typically whenever you're in this flight mode here, you only hover above the ground to a certain extent, and the game tries to like gradually pull you back to the ground. But as it turns out, as a little bit of a niche here, you can stave off a lot of that. You can see like Cinder's flying height down there, and just like prevents the game from lowering you too much. So it kind of fills a similar role to ending a movement chain on a bite to like get that extra little bit of distance, as I mentioned before. But you know, you have a lot more control and ease of access to it. As far as the real stuff, now we get into like the actual like ones that have movement capabilities. You have this poison strike thing that Cinder uses, which oddly enough, like it has a little bit of a learning curve to it because on the ground it sends you upwards, but if you're too high off the ground, it sends you downwards, and that can kind of influence some of the launches will be able to do with it. It's kind of funny to me that there's also an ability to do a quad jump with it, and that's actually basically useless considering just like how bonkers some of the other tools are. Meanwhile, earlier I was saying how in a new beginning, just having a third jump broke the game. But you know, that's kind of nifty. But what that does mean is that you can, you know, shield cancel this. You can also do like the roll to have like a quick little evasion boost. What's nicer about these is that the elemental moves also can interrupt those same attacks we use for like the roll flings. So you can do nonsense like that where you just become this cannonball of an assassin. I like to refer to it as poison darting because puns are funny. But you know, you can use that to like approach enemies and just have like a little bit of a like closer to the ground version of the roll fling. But on top of that, you can chain it even further. I mentioned you can shield cancel it. And normally you can't shield cancel the strong attack, which was used in those roll flings. So the end result is that Cinder gets a fully actionable strong attack cancel off of this by buffering through all of those. You can also kind of like mix and match with the roll as well. You can add that on to the end of the poison strike, and all of those will just give you immense speed. So you know, that's very helpful. Now, thankfully, a lot of the other elemental stuff is in Spyro's court, as Cinder in the past has been notoriously OP in this game. He actually kind of has his own version of what I was just showing. However, for his, it's not on one of the movement-based attacks. It's just the regular breath, which seems kind of innocuous, but what it means is that you don't have to upgrade the element. You just kind of have this always, whereas Cinder, you have to put a lot of gems into it to like just get the accessibility to it. It's a little clunkier because when you're in the ball, you just like quickly lose speed, so you're only really using it as a gateway to get that that shield cancel off. But having that as an option straight from the start is really strong. All right. And to top it all off, as far as all the movement that you can use on a regular basis, if somehow you haven't been astounded by at least one or two of the things here, this should give you a little bit of an idea of picture of potential in your head. I kid you not, Spyro can wave dash in this game. Oh man, Comet Dash, my beloved. So that move is busted in Eternal Night as well, but the way it ends up working in Dawn is that like all the other moves, you know, They don't give you too much speed on the ground because it just like loses off too quickly. They have such startup and whatever, but this is just like instant whatever. You can do it on the ground and then like jump out of it, and then you can, you know, use it to land as well because you have gravity working in your favor. You can just stand like literally right next to, you know, some little slope, and then if you have, you know, the reflexes, you can get a little launch off of that in the same lieu of like the slope redirection that was shown earlier. Here, let's just see it being done to get distance as well. Holy crap. I basically reached here from all the way up there. So, you know, the only problem with it is that it does use a lot of mana. But its its utility is way too strong to ignore, and it will definitely make cheap percent a really fun category when I can get to add that to the boards. Now that's all for the core movement, I suppose. There's a handful of more niche options available, including another redirection tool I can show right off the bat if I get up here. And this is called vine storage here. What we're going to do is set up one of those roll cancels and jump off the vines at any point to just release all that energy back towards whatever direction it was. Typically, of course, you would want to have your vector match, but if you're doing a climbing section and whatever, you can kind of cheese it a little bit to fling yourself upwards or sidewards in a way that you wouldn't be able to just from the strong attack cancel itself. Alrighty. Now there's one or two more little things I can demonstrate that kind of act as workarounds for the only like concerns you could realistically have at this point, which are obviously walls I mentioned, cutscene triggers, and enemies. I'm going to first be showing off a fairly simplistic way of clipping through walls. If you thought the invisible walls were tall in A New Beginning, they actually like imagine what a reasonable invisible wall would be. And then imagine multiplying that again and again and again. Basically, the invisible walls are like infinitely tall for our purposes. I am going to quickly enter a cheat here. I know, cheating in a speedrun. Did I get it? No. The audio cue for these is kind of crap. Okay, I do have it now. So we're going to be utilizing this Fury animation. I do have to kind of wait for a cooldown, but lets me show another little technique that Cinder has, which is that for whatever reason, her air combo does not have enough cooldown to actually ever like lose height. So you can just like climb walls and go like up and forward like as much as you want. And that's going to be helpful for setting up this flip I'm doing. See, normally for this door, you're supposed to fly around to a bunch of floating islands and light all these torches. And that's a fairly lengthy process. But what we can do instead is kind of get off the backflip of that. The Fury tries to push us up a little bit and then just mash flight or something. And you can push yourself up and over little corners and ceilings like that. And just for the sake of proof, here's the lever, fully actionable. and you would just be able to go ahead and do that practically for free. Now, that is a little bit basic, I suppose, as far as the approach to being able to clip, and also a little bit more specific because you need certain type or setup of collision. There's something that's a little more wonky and complicated here. I'm going to hopefully show off without a hitch. That's sort of like an AI manipulation thing. So, another well-known aspect of Dawn of the Dragon is that they, made a two-player or like switch the dragons on the fly kind of thing. And for that they need to account for the AI's positioning. Speaking of which, can I come over here and help me pull this down? Thank you. Now, the AI does not really know what to do, or like a lot of these advanced movement techniques I was showing off. So with certain timing and positioning, like what it tends to do is it defaults to oops. Hold on. Setup for this is kind of jank. But it tends to just do like a point A to point B thing, and the dragons will go over various obstacles that you as a player would not normally be able to cross, including invisible walls and, well, visible walls as well, depending. Can you switch? No. All right. So, like, for this cannon level, the next area is, like, just blocked off by a bit of rubble here. There we go. So by, like, rolling there, like, Cinder tries to swoop around. Oh, I guess we're gonna have to deal with, an alarm going off the whole time. Oh well. Couldn't help that too much. But yeah, you just kind of swoop around the rubble there. If the AI cooperates, which, you can influence, but it is admittedly a bit hard and definitely needs a bit more research to understand. But it's another neat way to work around. And now we get to one of the other element techniques I actually saved because technically was known, but it's useful for the cutscene skips I mentioned. So you thought Earth in A New Beginning was overpowered. This shadow move, literally, this isn't even like tech. It just ignores cutscene triggers. Like you can see, like this is an enemy that's supposed to like just be used for that cutscene and whatever. But nah. If I had let go at any point, the cutscene would have triggered, of course, and we'd been able to see that. But that's kind of just how that is. And one other thing, of course, to make Shadow broken and to get over any enemies in our path, as it would not be a Legend of Spyro game without some weird, obtusely overpowered way to approach combat. This will be my final thing. It's gonna go into Twilight Falls to enjoy one last iconic piece of scenery from the game after a scenery lacking showcase before, which was pretty funny to witness, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Good on Deo for that. It's gonna... Whoa! Got a nice little fling off of that, even. Alright. Whoa, okay. I'm going to put in a health cheat code, actually, because these elite enemies terrify me. Oops. And then do I have unlimited magic? So these guys basically like two-shot you, and you can normally only do chip to them, and you're supposed to fight them for like some extreme rewards and whatever. But we're gonna hopefully make quick use of them in just a moment here. I have to break this funky mask off that makes it essentially immune to most magical attacks. Alright. So we're gonna put Spyro on electric, which resets enemies' positions. And we're going to switch to dark, which we already know is overpowered, but you can shield cancel it, and that all has hitboxes, so that's fun for smaller enemies. But this is a bigger enemy, so what are we gonna do? Going to Shadow Strike it and switch, and this isn't even it at its most potent, and we already have basically beat the thing. You can see the combo counter just roll up like a slot machine, and that's because the electricity just hits it one frame, and then the shadow attack hits it another frame, and it just keeps going until whatever it is dies. Wonderful little oversight. So yeah, I suppose that was Dawn of the Dragon. Hopefully I didn't eat up too much time in the schedule and was able to decently showcase everything without going too fast for most people. If you want, you can always reach out to me on Twitch or Discord, and I can, sit down and give a more deliberate demonstration or explanation. But I believe that's a good stopping point for me if Phoenix and everyone else is good with it.
All right. Hello, hello. How's it going, EpicNess?
I'm feeling pretty pretty smooth about all of that. I didn't get to read the chat or anything, but just being able to keep everything organized and timely was a huge concern for me there, and I didn't have too many flubs with demonstrating some of the tricks I had trouble with before. Felt like it was a good showcase. Can't complain.
And I would definitely agree with that. So I'm gonna shout out, or actually Phoenix already has shouted out your Twitch channel. So everyone be sure to go there and be sure to support EpicNess there. Um, our apologies for the tech difficulties early on, but be sure to check out EpicNess. These all seem like great games for The Legend of Spyro, and he's been putting in a lot of work, so shout outs to you for that. And in the meantime, what we are going to do is transition on over to RDA is going to be doing. Is that correct? 1 second. Yes, he is going to be doing Season of Flame any percent for Spyro 2 Season of Flame. So be sure to stick around for that. He'll be up next.
All right, awesome. Thanks again, everybody.
All right, have a good night.
No, I don't like that. What am I doing? Dude, this is so uncomfortable. I'm not doing that. Fuck that. Wow. So this is what they call grass. Oh, didn't see you there. My name is Derek Later. I casually play through games with a timer. And you're watching Spyrothon. Dude, grass is like incredible. And you're telling me it grows too?